Paltrocast.
Aside from travel, dealing with me, I know those are two big caveats right there. How's your day going, Jeff?
Everything's great. We went to the Reichstag earlier today and just cruising around Berlin, having had lunch with our son and loving being here. I've never been to Berlin. It's an amazing city. It's an amazing city.
I haven't been to Germany before. I hear that in a big city like Berlin, you can get by in English and you're fine on that end.
I mean, most everybody speaks English. My German is non-existent, but there everybody speaks English. It's really easy to get around.
You're not using Spanish at all to get by. I've seen your stand up. So
what's funny is I've actually my kid was making fun of me when I accidentally slip into Spanish for people. And yes, 2 days, twice in 2 days, we've met people and we're able to communicate with them in Spanish. And actually a third time today, a woman from Portugal, a couple from Venezuela, and today a guy from Chile. So, and they spoke German, but they also spoke Spanish and English.
Makes sense. Well, hey, we're not here to talk about your vacations or your multilingual habits. We're here to talk about how the Garcias came back to you, the U.S. rights and all of that.
Yes.
So that is what I would call a smart businessman move right there. When well, my assumption is we're not getting it handled the way that we want. Let's put it back in the hands that are going to handle it correctly. Or do I have that wrong?
I think that's a fair assessment. We ended up really doing our own marketing because when we launched literally as the transition was happening. And, you can imagine the madness that was going on at that company or any company that would experience during a transition. So they just kind of said, hey, you're in charge of marketing. You got 1 week's notice, tag, you're it. And at that point I was like, we know our show, and a lot of people don't realize we had no executives on our show. They didn't know who wrote it. They didn't know who directed it, who acted in it. And actually, I think it was I hope that the Warner people came out of that with to me, that was a really valuable experience, I think, for executives, because oftentimes executives are well-meaning and they want to give notes. In some cases, there's always been a contentious relationship between showrunners and executives.
Right.
And one of the other problems we often hear with Latinos is, when you have non-Latino executives giving you notes, you're like, well, wouldn't they do this? I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. And how do you, and you don't want to get into an argument with somebody.
Right.
So when, one of the most frequent comments I got about the show was the show's very authentic. And I think that's because we didn't have any interference. And I think that can be a good thing. I'm sure there are shows that need more hand-holding. We didn't. And then when it came time that they were getting out of the family business, I think that was back in November. They're back in it now. But
it is confusing over there. Are they in the superhero business, the stand-up business? HBO, they're good to me with giving me talent, but it's hard to define what HBO is and what HBO does, what HBO Max is, what HBO Max does. And I think we're on the same page on that end.
I'm just kind of like, I'm taking the position of, I'm just thrilled that they gave, when I first said we're going to go get the rights back, all my friends said, you're nuts. That'll never happen, because we own the show. We've always owned the show.
Right.
But they had a 9-year window left on the show. And, and so the fact that we were able to negotiate that window and reacquire the show and make that window go away, that was a really good thing for us. And now we're going out to market, and I would tell you who we're talking with, but then I'd have to kill you. So I want to do that, and we're just thrilled to tears to have it back, and we know our show, and I think that's kind of the new, maybe hopefully this is the new world that show creators start re-owning their content. So if you look back in the old days of Aaron Spelling and Carsey Warner and those guys, they own their content, right? And then when everything in the big media thing merged, and it was the platforms and the studios, they were all one. You couldn't own anything. It's really I think that had good implications and bad ones. So we are big. We are big champions of owning our own content and trying to teach others on how to own their own content, because at the end of the day, a studio is just a bank, right? That's basically all they are. They're just a bank, and a bank with executives that want to tell you how to do your show. right? So I'm like telling creatives going, you know what, banks need to do business with you because they can't stay open if they don't do business with you.
Right, they
So
need product to, well, to cut you off for a second, a weird name drop is a couple days ago when I was interviewing David Coverdale from Whitesnake. He was
mhm.
talking about he got the rights back to the Coverdale Page album he did with Jimmy Page from Led
Oh,
Zeppelin,
wow. Okay.
basically by going, hey, can I have it back? So in the music business, it's totally the norm to go, you're not putting out my stuff, give it back and forgo this advance. Like Motley Crue's movie
Right.
has a part of that about, hey, you don't want to give us the advance for X, Y, and Z, give us our masters back. And that's not really been the case in TV. You're
No.
maybe the only person I could think of that's gotten a rights reversion in the last 10 years.
And we're very thrilled about that, believe me. You know, we just, and we want to do season 2, and we learned a lot of, I mean, it was only on the air for less than a year.
Yeah.
And we had some analytics done by Nielsen and Parrott, and it had terrific results.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, people always say, oh, well, people can't make Latino shows, and Latinos don't watch shows about Latinos. Like, that's funny, because 65% of our audience was Latino,
Who
which then
says that?
people will go, well, 65%. So the show is really only appealing to Latinos. I'm like, wait a second, weren't you before complaining that Latinos didn't watch Latino shows? And now you're saying this is only appealing to Latinos. Which one do you want? Because 45% of our audience was not Latino, and
Right.
that's a real audience. And it was the 8th most popular show, original show on HBO Max, according to Parrot Analytics. And it was growing 4 times faster than any other show on TV. I
Yeah.
mean, that shows that's a good trend.
To pigeonhole the show by nationality or ethnicity is just stupid. If you look at what my wife and I watch, it's not like we go, okay, we need one black show and one Mexican show.
Yeah. No.
The average person, I would say, watches a little bit of everything, whether or not they choose to.
Well, this is a family show, period.
Yes.
And I've had families approach me that were Latino and said, oh my God, thank you. I was able to watch with my parents and my kids. And
Right.
It was a family viewing experience. And we really connected to the character and to some of the ethnic inclusion in there. And then other people who were, I can't tell how many reporters that were African Americans said, oh my God, I grew up on the original Brothers Garcia, and now I watch it with my kids. Right. And it's, and my favorite character is Carlos, because he's always got a scam going, or George because he's a tech guy. We go beyond ethnicity in the show. That's just something, that's their last name happens to be Garcia, right?
Well said. Well, is that the only great news or positive stuff related to your production company that you can share? Are there other things coming out that we can look forward to that are not under embargo?
Everything's under embargo right now. I can tell you we have a film that we've got financed and that we're going forward on. That's a real important historical piece, because we just don't hear historical stories about, American Latinos. I mean, I just finished writing a story about World War II that, it's this amazing story. In this case, it's about a Mexican a group of pilots that flew for the United States in the war in the Philippines. And, there's just all these, and that's just like one of a ton of movies that are out there. John Leguizamo is always touting about where are our stories about, the Aztecs, the Maya. If you can see over my shoulder, Jaguar Princess is one of our projects we're going out with. And it's all about, it's a superhero action film about the Maya. So, our slate, our slate is somewhat delayed right now. There's a thing called the strike going on.
Yeah.
But so once that's done, we'll be heavily into the market with a lot of stuff. But in the meantime, hopefully having the rights to the Garcias will be a good thing, because there are no TV shows being made. So we can walk in and say, hey, we've got 10 episodes ready to go, and we've got the next 10 already teed up, and let's do this.
With great people that they're familiar with and future stars at the same time. It's not just old people.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, one of the girls, I can point to her right there, Trinity, my finger is over her face. She was in Avatar: Way of Water. She played Took. I mean, she's not blue in our photo. She's blue in Avatar, but she was the daughter Took, which was a great breakout role for her. And everybody's out working, was working a lot after the Garcias. So, and also, one of the things we learned, and we're going to change for season 2, we're going to change the name of the show to the Brothers Garcia Plus. And the reason we're doing that is one of the lessons we learned, which I think makes us even more invaluable because we did the marketing. So we know what worked and what didn't work.
Right.
So going forward, we can say, here's what works, here's what doesn't work. And one of the most common things we had is a lot of people are huge fans of the Brothers Garcia. We had a huge audience base globally.
Yeah.
And every one of them, I wouldn't say every one of them, too many of them said, oh, wow, I didn't know the Garcias was the same as the Brothers Garcia. And people had to go to that second level to figure it out. And we said, look, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? Let's just call it the Brothers Garcia Plus, because it's the Brothers Garcia plus, wives and children now. Smart.
Well, hey, on to you here. I am forever obsessed with stand-up comedy, and you got your start in the stand-up world. And so my first question related to all that, when's the last time you played harmonica?
Oh my God. That's so funny. I literally brought my harmonicas with me to Berlin, and Craig, we're staying at the Ritz-Carlton, in the piano player in the lounge, I'm playing with him tonight.
Wow.
And here's how small the world is. You're in New York, I'm in Berlin, we're from LA. Tonight, my wife and I, before we go play with Craig, we're going to the symphony here in Berlin, being conducted by Dudamel. And Dudamel was the conductor of the LA Philharmonic, and now he's going to New York, to your neighborhood, to conduct the New York Philharmonic, but he's conducting tonight in Berlin.
So everything's happening everywhere. Well, where I was going with the harmonica thing is, in your era of stand-up comedy, it wasn't uncommon to see a virtuoso, and I'm calling you a virtuoso because I never heard anyone do the ambulance sounds, the European ambulance sounds on a harmonica before. So you were an innovator on that end. So it wasn't uncommon to see, hey, Sam Kinison wants to show off that he can play guitar. Let's parlay that into solo albums, hence the Awful Wild Thing covers and all that. Were you trying to parlay the stand-up into a record deal?
That's I'll tell you a funny story about that. I also play drums, and I recorded a song called Blown Away years ago as a reggae song. It's kind of a spoof on Jimmy Cliff, about a guy who smoked too much weed and got blown away. And about maybe 2 years ago, some guy, a DJ from Italy, called me and says, "Are you Jeff Valdez?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Jeff Valdez." And he says, "Did you record a 45 record back like in the 80s called Blown Away?" I'm like, "Yeah, where's this going?" He goes, "Well, I'm like this DJ, whatever his famous DJ name was." And he said, and your song, I play it at all the clubs I play throughout Europe, and it's like a huge hit. And I have DJs that are playing it in Japan. But the only I found a copy of your record at a garage sale when I was in LA, and I would love to know, can you get me some more copies of it? So it's so funny because we're going to Vienna after this. I should reach out to him because he's a DJ in Italy. That'd be kind of fun. But no, I played music before I ever did stand up, and then playing harmonica. Long story short, several years ago, a mutual friend connected Carlos Santana and I together, and he invited me to. I played harmonica in his office. He hosted me for lunch one day, and I played harmonica for him. And he said, "Wow, you're really good." And he said, would you like to be a guest musician with me at the Hollywood Bowl in 2 months from now? And I was like, "Oh, absolutely." And then my business partner's daughter, who I'd known since she was a little girl, got married the same night. So I told her, "Sam," I said, I'm giving up a chance to play the Hollywood Bowl with Santana. So, I must love you a lot because this was everything to me. But it's so funny. I love playing harp, and I've been talking about getting together with some old musician friends of mine and doing some tracks. That would be kind of a fun thing.
I think that you could do you remember when Stephen King had that band with the other authors and writers?
I don't remember that.
And Ayn Rand. They had this thing, or I guess they got Al Cooper from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and a couple of people, and they toured around as the authors band, or what, I
Oh,
forget
that's
what the name
funny.
of it was. It was kind of a joke, kind of a passion play kind of thing. What if there was a showrunners band? Because there's you on drums and harp.
There are some, I'm Adam Sandler, I want to say plays bass.
He plays
Dana,
everything. Chuck Lorre is on guitar.
yeah, Dana Carvey's a drummer. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're not showrunners, but Chuck Lorre is obviously.
Dice Clay on drums.
Yeah, that's funny. We could put a showrunner band together. Now, no actors. I'm gonna just showrunners get. I'm sure.
Well,
I'm sure if I ever really looked into who all the showrunners are, there's a lot of ex-players.
I'm sure of that, but it's fascinating to look back at your stand-up and go, that's the same guy. Do you ever feel that way? You go, wait, I was a stand-up.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's weird. I mean, I was telling my wife when we were in the lounge the other night at the Ritz, I was like, I would have been the guy on the stage performing at one time, and now we're guests here at the hotel, right? It's just that stature is different, right? I would have been, you know, dancing for my keep, right? Now I just get to show up. But you know what? So much of what my stand-up, I think it gives me an advantage as a writer, because I've actually, and I've told people, I've gotten into various arguments with executives before, and I've said, look, I've actually performed in front of strangers, like where they brought people from all around the city, in different cities all around the world, and they came into a room, we'll call it a focus group, and I got them to laugh. Now that, to me, I've always said, if I ever owned a channel, which I did at one time, I said, the only people I'm going to let program it are comics, because they know what an audience wants.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to, here's my opinion. I don't care about your opinion. I care about the audience's opinion. Right. And that's where I think stand-up has been invaluable, because when you write, you're going, you know, I'm writing this not for me, I'm writing this for an audience, because that's, in my opinion, who's paying you to do that, right?
Yeah. But well, before I ask my last question, one of the stereotypes, and I've heard Adam Carolla and different people talk about it, usually the people who are the presidents of comedy and network never did stand-up, never wrote comedy, and have almost no sense of humor. You don't have to agree with me if you disagree.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I can't tell you how many times I've met with heads of networks, and you're like going, but you're not funny. I mean, and they're not going to get the joke, and they may be the nicest people in the world, but you know, their job should be so easy. It's just like, find funny people. You know, the guy who mentored me, he said, you know, find smart people, or in this case, funny people, and get out of their way. Let them do their gig, right? If they know the audience, I promise you they'll score. But what happens is comedy by committee. You know, you've seen this happen too many times with the script, where there's 20 different people giving their opinion on a joke. And then pretty soon you give birth to an 8-headed baby, and everybody runs for the mountains, and you're there going, isn't he beautiful? Like, no, it's not fair. You know, let the creative person that you bought this from live or die by what they do. And then you go around and tell everybody the amazing show you made, right? Then you take all the credit for it. That's okay. We don't mind.
I'd like to see the opposite happen. There to be a show about comedy by committee, and you see the horrible jokes that happen, and people vote if they're actually funny or not, to kind of prove the point of comedy by committee will never work.
Doesn't work. You know, I had a reality show. I can't remember it, but there were pranks. And one of the pranks that we had in it, where we were going to basically take a page from the producers, and we were going to go into a, you know, set a gag with a head of development at a network, and have the president in on it, and have, you know, bring in like a really famous, like a famous showrunner, like a Greg Daniels or somebody, with the absolute worst pitches we could possibly come up with, right? So Springtime for Hitler in Germany kind of scene, and really pull a real prank on somebody. It would have been so damn funny to do that.
It would not be 30 seconds before I love it.
Because you know, they would have bought one of them. They would have, well, yeah, you know, maybe if we can get so-and-so to be in it, we can green light that. Because the sad truth is, we too often decisions on content are made based on a celebrity, or, or a lot of people just say, let's old library and redo it. Right?
Totally.
So here's just a really uniquely funny idea, and let's do that.
Paltrocast.